गणानां त्वा गणपतिगुं हवामहे कविं कवीनामुपमश्रवस्तमम् ज्येष्ठराजं ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन् ऊतिभिः सीदसादनम् महागणपतये नमः। ॐ आनन्दमयी चैतन्यमयी सत्यमयी परमे ॐ नमो भगवते श्री अरविन्दाय नमः। Namaste to all of you.
Sir, we lost you on the video, sir.
Oh, there is some problem here.
That's okay,
Okay,
sir. Please go ahead.
I will keep talking. Sometime it may pick up.
Okay, sir, no problem.
Thank you for inviting me to this speech on the Vedic gods. Here there are two words, Veda and the gods. The translation of gods in English not at all represent the conception of the seers. Actually, we should call as Devas, Vedika Devas. The word Deva is derived from the word root Div. Div means light. So the Devas, or what we translate in very rough English gods, they are the Veda. We have basically three things. One is mantra, another is rishi, the third one is mantra. So the rishis, in their tapas, in the peak of their tapas, what they have heard, which we call as Shruti, are given to the mankind as mantras. So through the mantras, the human beings can attain the same state which is attained by these rishis, and they can realize or manifest the gods. So this is the basic idea of devas, or the gods, or the Vedic gods. Vedic gods are the cosmic forces, Vishwatita Shakti, what we call in Sanskrit is Vishwatita Shakti. Vishwa is what is being manifested, which we can touch, see, hear, all these Panchendriya business. Beyond this is the realm, and these powers, or the cosmic powers, work from this realm. So they are devas, or the forces of the light. These devas, or the gods, are not poetical personifications of abstract ideas. To the Vedic seer, they are living realities. So elsewhere in the Veda, it is said that when you invoke a particular deva through the particular mantra addressed to that particular deva, that energy, that force, that power will manifest in the human being, and it grows in him as a child grows in the womb of a woman, or as a sown seed grows into a huge tree. This is the idea of the seers of the Veda. They are born in the human beings, empower them in their journey towards the supreme perfection. So all-round perfection is the idea of the Veda. So there are people who ask, what is the use of Vedas? Vedas have taken place about 6 or 8,000 years back. How they are relevant today? So here the question is, here the answer is that Vedas help us to achieve the all-round perfection by manifesting the powers of the gods. The first and foremost god whom we approach in the Veda is the Agni, what we call in English as fire. The fire god they call it. Agni. Agni is derived from the root ang, means the conscious willpower. Each and every Vedic god represents a particular psychological power in the human being. For example, just now I referred the god Agni. Agni represents the willpower in the human being. Then comes the god Indra. Indra represents the clarity in thinking in the human being. Saraswati. What we see the picture of the Saraswati here, the goddess who has got 4 or 6 hands, Veena, a book, and a Japamala. All these things you will be having. So we call her as goddess Saraswati. But when you come to Vedas, the goddess Saraswati is the goddess of inspiration. She is the goddess of inspiration. What kind of inspiration? The inspiration towards the truth. Satyam Rutam. She inspires us towards the truth. So inspiration is needed for everything. So even to steal, inspiration is required. You want to kill somebody, inspiration is required. In this way, see, the goddess Saraswati inspires you towards the truth. What is the truth? That is attainment of the power of the God or the attainment of the light. Then comes the god Surya. ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದೆಯಲ್ಲ madam? The physical sun that we see is the physical sun which we can see and experience. But here the Vedic seers or the Rush to the Surya who is inside the human being or the subtle Surya. The god Surya means, in the sense of the Vedic Rishis, is that is the onset of the spiritual journey. Surya inspires the onset of the spiritual journey. Surya or the sun is the master of the supreme truth. So we have these two things in the Vedas, Satyam Rutam. Satyam means the supreme truth. Rutam means the truth in movement. So that is the extension of the truth. Everything is truth. Everything is truth. But Rutam is the truth in movement. It is not complete truth. It is not supreme truth. It is only an extension of truth. Our life is an extension of the truth. So we always strive to find, to experience, to live with the supreme truth. The truth of being, the truth of knowledge, truth of process and act and movement and function. See the clarity of the seers, how the gods are experienced by them. Most of us have heard the name of Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo involved in the freedom fight, and in 1910 he went to Pondicherry, and he lived in a room for about 40 years. He did not come out from a room, and he did the tapas. Of course, he created a great literature. He wrote several pages of literature, and most of his writings are his experiences. So, while studying the Vedas or while meditating on the Vedic mantras, Sri Aurobindo realized Sri Aurobindo realized the powers of the gods and goddesses, and some of those gods and goddesses appeared to him, and they gave the secret of the Veda. That is why he wrote a book, The Secret of the Veda. The secret is that understanding completely the secret behind these gods and goddesses. So, if we want to see the quick list of the gods and their powers in the Veda, Aditi is the goddess of infinity. Agni, fire, it is the cosmic power of heat and light and the willpower united with wisdom. So Agni is also called as Jata Vedaha. Jata Vedaha means the one who knows the past, present, and the future of any living creature. So he is united with wisdom. Human willpower is a feeble projection of this power. And Aryama is another god. Aryama, the lord of exalted power. Ashwins, we have heard this name. Ashwins, they are the lords of bliss and divine physicians who render the human body free of diseases so that it can accept the divine prana, the life energy. Ashwins help us to realize the light, the power of the light. So when we meditate upon the God or the gods, they appear or they manifest. But here is a trick. If they appear or if they manifest, that particular human being should be able to understand it, whereas most of the time we are unable to understand it or withstand it. That is what is called in Veda as Atapta Tanu. Atapta Tanu means the pot which is not baked. You have seen the pots, earthen pots. Earthen pots are done by the earth or the mud. When they are not baked, they easily break away. If you put water into that, it melts. If you put something heavy thing, that breaks. Whereas if it is baked, once it is baked properly, then that pot will be able to withstand the liquid, solid, and everything. Not only that, you can use that pot for cooking. So this is called as Tapta Tanu. So always rishis have given the call to make this Atapta Tanu as the Tapta Tanu, and the process of making this Atapta Tanu into Tapta Tanu is tapas. Tapa means burning. Tapa means burning. So that is the physical burning, baking. The earthen pot is the physical baking, and this tapa or the tapas is the subtle baking. So all in the first lecture, our guest talked about Satyam Vada Dharmam Chara. All these things will help us to bake this pot called as human being. And a human being is consisted of these three things: Anna, Prana, Mana. So Anna is physical, Prana is vital, Mana is the mind. And one out of one over the above, these are the more subtler things. And always the demands of these three things, Anna, Prana, Mana, are always different, and most of the time they will be quarreling each other. The demands of the body are separate. That is, the body always want to rest. It do not want to involve into work. It do not want to take any sort of rest. And the prana, the vital, it always want rajasika. It always want to be active. It always want to move from this end to that end, this place to that place, and always go on experiencing newer and newer things. And the next is manas or the mind, which always want to be balanced. It always want to pursue the more and more purer things. It dwells into the subtle aspects. Hence, to bring a harmony amongst these three, Anna, Prana, Mana, we have to meditate. We have to practice the tapas. And here, the gods, Ashwins, the twin gods, help us to understand all these subtle things and involve into the tapas. Then comes Brahaspati. In the Veda, Brahma, Brahaspati, Brahmanaspati are the same. Nowadays, we call him as Ganapati. In the later days, Purana or the Tantric literature projected him as Ganapati. The mantra I chanted in the beginning, Gananam tva Ganapatim havamahe kavim kavinam upamashravastamam. This is addressed to Ganapati. But in the Veda, the concept of this elephant god is not there. According to the Veda, Gana means a mantra, and Ganapati, the god, the Deva Ganapati, is the lord of the mantras. And what is his relevance? What is his importance? Why did the rishis give us this Ganapati, who is the lord of the Gana, the lord of the mantras? We know it that beginning of any puja, beginning of any yajna, or beginning of any tapas, we chant mantras addressed to Ganapati or Brahaspati or Brahmanaspati, because this cosmic energy has the power of affecting the power of the mantra. So we request the Lord of Mantra, in the process of my yajna or my puja, what mantras I am chanting, please affect it. So how do we ask him? Gananantva Ganapatim Havamahe Kavim Kavinam Upamashramastamam Jeshta Rajam Brahmanam Brahmanaspatihi Anah Shunvan Utibihi. Anah Shunvan Utibihi means you listen to me from very nearly, and let none of our prayers go without falling into your ears. So, after invoking Ganapati, chanting other mantras addressed to other deities is like sowing a seed in a fertile land, which is properly prepared by an agriculturist. If you sow a seed in an unfertile land and in an improper ambience, it will not grow. In the same manner, according to the Vedic rishis, so if you want to chant a mantra, it has to be chanted after invoking the Ganapati so that he will create ambience in the subtle body for effectuating or manifesting the powers of the gods. Then comes Bhaga. Bhaga, the god Bhaga or the Bhaga Deva is the enjoyer and distributor of the delight. Here, enjoyer. So Veda never stops or never hinders anyone from the enjoyment. The concept of sannyasa is everyone, every human being, every creature is entitled to enjoy the life. That is why we have the Shatamana mantra or the Ashirvachana mantra, Shatamanam Bhavati. So you live for 100 years with best sight, best taste, super hearing power. That means you should enjoy the life in total. So rishis propose enjoyment and they put a condition that you never enjoy alone. Enjoy it with your fellow being, and your enjoyment should not hinder the joy of your fellow being or the fellow living. So this is the condition. So Bhaga helps us to enjoy whatever is been achieved by us, whatever is earned by us. So our earlier speaker, he quoted the mantra of the Isha Upanishad. You are entitled to enjoy. You are entitled to enjoy this life, but never claim as the owner. And that brings you the misery. So that point has to be purified. The same thing is stressed in the Veda, and Bhaga helps us to have the pure enjoyment without the attachment of claiming ourselves as the owner of the life. Then comes Ila. Ila is the goddess. She is the goddess of revelation. So finally, the aim of any tapas or the meditation or the sadhana is revelation. It should be revealed upon which we meditate. So the goddess Ila helps us to realize or reveal the aim of our tapas or the meditation. Then comes the Maruts. We have heard the name of the Maruts. Maruts are the life energies. Maruts are the life energies. Then comes the Mitra, the Lord of love and harmony. Love and harmony. These are the foundations of enjoyment of the human being. There should be love, unconditional love, and there should be harmony. So the result of this disharmony is a disease. Disease is not something physical. The diseases appear physically, but the cause of all diseases is, without any doubt, it is because of the inharmony. Inharmony. So we should live a harmonious life. Where there is harmony, there is complete peace, there is complete health, there is complete progress. If you want to see the progress, if you want to enjoy the full health, if you want to have the peace of mind, there should be harmony. And this gods, Mitra, they are always called as Mitra Varuna. Mitra Varuna, both they work together. Then comes the Pushan. He is the deity of nourishment. In the process of life, we suffer so many things. We get something which needs to be nourished. And here the god Pushan helps us to nourish it. Then Parjanya, we have heard the name. Parjanya is not the rain or the rain god. He is the deity of descending dynamics, energies. So Parjanya or the Apaha or the waters are considered by the Vedic rishis as the dynamic energies. You must have seen those who perform the Sandhya Vandana. In the beginning of the Sandhya Vandana, they sprinkle waters to the body and they say the mantra Pohishta Mayur Bhavaha. What is the symbol of that? Why should I sprinkle a few drops of water? The symbol is that water or the apaha are considered by rishis as the dynamic energies, and we sprinkle this dynamic, not only the physical water. I should conceive that I am sprinkling the dynamic energy to this body and let it become dynamic. Let it become dynamic so that I should be able to continue or go on in the journey of attaining the truth. Then comes the
Sir,
Rudra. Okay.
sir, you can sum up in few minutes, sir, Jagirdar, sir. I
Yes,
think,
I'm summing up.
yeah,
Yes,
thank you.
yes. Thanks for reminding me.
Yeah,
I'll sum it up. So here, in this way, totally, there are 30 or 35 gods have been listed by Sri Aurobindo. In summary, I want to say that the Vedic gods are the cosmic energies. They are abundant storehouse of the lot of energy. Whenever a human being wants to draw this energy, he should simply chant these mantras with utmost faith, and those gods are always ready to come towards you because they are also very eager to find a proper person to manifest themselves and create a happy, healthy, and progressive world. So the call of the Vedas is everyone should progress, everyone should develop, and these gods will definitely help us to develop. Hope this is the importance of the Vedic god. I thank Vedic Wellness University and all the volunteers and faculty who are involved in this work. They are doing a great work. I appreciate it. And also, I thank all of you for patiently listening to me. Namaste.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jagirdar, sir. Actually, I just want to add a couple of lines also. So, I think Dr. Jagirdar, Dr. Jagirdar, sir, and Padmasri Kashyap, both are dedicated their entire life for the Vedas. And when we started this project, we met like few times. And a very open-minded person, Dr. Jagirdar, sir, and time to time, he educated us like, how to, like basically promote Vedas, how to take things forward. And thank you for your support, sir, and your experience. And we are very blessed to have advisors like you and Dr. Padmasri Dr. Kashyapji. And thank you for being here with us today.
Namaste.